Welcome to Dracaena Wines podcast. Our wines plus your moments equals great memories. I'm your host, Lori, and this is a podcast about all things wine. Today on Dracaena Wines podcast, we are talking about wine regions. I called upon some of my wine writing friends to talk about the least known wine regions that they love to drink. I posed the question, what makes a wine region known or unknown? Is it simply just how much they're on social media? So today, I ask you to come out of your comfort zone and go grab yourself a bottle from one of these wine regions. We provide some tips about how you can find wines that you may enjoy, even if you are not familiar with the region. And of course, as always, we end with a riddle. So as you're listening, if you could please take a few moments to leave us a review, let us know what you think about the podcast and what topics you would like us to discuss in the future. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy. Slainte. Hey everybody, welcome to this month's Wine Writers Wrap Up. Today we are talking about our favorite unknown wine region. And I know that's really broad because what I know is not what you know, and what you know is not what somebody else knows. But I think that there are some wine regions that are off of the tip of our tongues. In the United States, we all know Napa, Sonoma. Trying to get Paso Robles more into there, onto the tip of people's tongue. We've got Bordeaux, we've got Burgundy, we've got those wine regions that everybody seems to know, even if they aren't wine lovers. So today, I posed the question to my wine writer friends to bring up what region they enjoy drinking that might not be so popular, and to the maybe new wine lovers out there. So today I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, and then we'll get into it. So I'm just going to go left to right on my camera. I don't know what it looks like on your side, but David, you are first on my left.
Okay, hello, I'm David, and I blog at Cooking Chat.
Jill.
So I'm Jill Barth. I blog at L'Occasion, my wine blog, and I write a freelance writer for a few different publications. You can find me on Forbes several times a month with a column there all about wines from around the world.
Nicole.
Hi, I'm Nicole Ruiz-Hudson, and I blog at The Psalms Table and at Nibbling Gypsy. I also freelance for a few different places, including a recipe pairing series that I do for Wine Spectator. I also work at a wine shop called Bay Grape here in Oakland, California.
You keep very busy. And Tina.
Hi, I'm Tina Mori. I run Wine Studio, which is a Twitter chat. We talk everything about wine, understanding our world through wine and our part in that world. That's it. And I'm excited to be here. 2019, yay!
Yay! Happy New Year, everybody! Woo! And if you don't know who I am Lori Budd. My husband Michael and I own a boutique winery in Paso Robles. We focus in on Cabernet Franc. We have two. We have our classic Cabernet Franc, and releasing in about 14 days, we have our first vintage of our Reserve Cabernet Franc. And then in the spring, we will have our second vintage of our Rosé of Syrah. So if you're in Paso, give us a holler. All right, guys. So when I came up with this topic, for me, and Tina, I think you know this because I've talked to you, I think the most about it, is when I started the wine studio. The reason why I started wine studio was because I had my nice little cozy comfort blanket around me of the Western Coast wines, right? I knew Paso Robles, and then from previous, I knew Napa and Sonoma. And the reason why I joined Wine Studio was because your presentation, your program, brings all of these different wine regions to the forefront, and I have learned so much. And it's all your fault now that I explore all these regions.
Aha! Well, you got a taste of it. Yeah, you want more.
Right. So I thought that this would be kind of a fun little topic to talk about so that we can bring whatever we think is an unknown kind of wine region to my listeners and the viewers. So let's raise a glass. I'm assuming we all have a glass, right? Yay!
Got the cup.
You got your cup? There could be wine in there, right? Okay. Well, first of all, Happy New Year to everybody. So Slainte to that. And thank you for joining me in the first Wine Writers Wrap-Up of 2019. So Slainte.
Cheers.
All right. So just to start off with, what do you guys think make a wine region either known or unknown to the general population? Like,
That's a great question.
oh, I thank you.
I think that's an awesome question. I can jump in. I think there's so many things that like factor in there, but I do think that I mean, in addition, I think a lot of particularly in the American wine drinking public, I think people do feel really comfortable with grapes that they know. So if a bottle has a grape on it, it makes it that much more accessible to the wine consumer. But you know, I think it's so much. It's such a big world out there that I kind of want people to get, stray away from that, and dive in and start, pushing the boundaries a little.
Right.
I think it depends on where people are purchasing, retail or restaurants, and what's out there. If they're mostly exposed to, Napa, Sonoma, Paso Robles, then that's what they're going to be drinking. If they have no idea, Vermont, Hudson Valley, then they're going to have no idea. For those of us in the wine industry, it's easy because we have access to a lot of this. We have this, right? You have your program, my program. So we have writers like Jill. So I think it all depends on what we're seeing in the market space.
Yeah, it reminds me, the local wine shop I go to, it's called Pairings in the Boston area, and the owners, they bought the store, but basically took over a store based on, they love traveling to all kinds of unusual, interesting wine regions, and they just had the passion for it, and they bring that to the store. Every Saturday they open six bottles of wine. A couple will be from the more known places, but almost without fail, you're gonna try one or two wines from a region you haven't tried before. Expand your horizons, and there's a little nucleus of people that it's grown that really appreciate and enjoy that. So it's fun to see. I think the default is the known, but I think people do appreciate when they get an opportunity to experience without necessarily having to travel. Oh, that's great too. To taste from what you can get from some other regions.
Right. Go ahead, Jill.
No, I was thinking your concept, and Nicole, you can probably speak to this working at Big Grape. Having an awesome wine shop makes all the difference in tasting. That's like the biggest tip for anybody that wants to get into wine is go to your wine shop, because they're always willing to open stuff, and you can get the distributor sometimes, the importer, and you never know what you'll taste from your wine shop. And I think people are missing out maybe because they're afraid of taking that all in. Maybe they think it's too exclusive or something, so they just grab something at the store. But it's so awesome to go to the wine shop, because that's where you're really going to learn, I think, probably more than a restaurant. I mean, not to offend the restaurants, but I think the shop's a good spot to go.
I mean, and I can't speak for everyone, but I know, we love to geek out and talk to customers. So, you're kind of giving us an excuse to, I don't know, it's like a nice thing. It's like you're giving us an excuse to talk about what we love. But to David's point, I one of the things I personally love about wine is that you can sort of travel to a place without, ever leaving your apartment or your home. If you can't, so you can just travel via a glass. And I think there's something just so amazing about that.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's like when you taste the wines from the different areas, it transcends you to that region. And I think that if you, at least for me, if it's a wine that I taste and I'm like, wow, I really like this, it kind of triggers my curiosity to then go research a little bit more about that country and then about that wine and that winery. And then I want to see, all right, was this wine the just majorly awesome, and the rest of them aren't, so now I've got to go out and go find other bottles and other wineries from that region. right, go down the wine rabbit hole there. But I do agree, the wine shop is a major place, and if you're lucky enough to have a wine shop like David, like those owners who are so passionate to travel and bring those wines in, then you are super lucky. You're not going to get that walking into your local food store and going whatever is on the shelf. That's the other thing I would say, is to definitely walk into those shops, and if they don't have something, to ask. So I was going to say, I think one of the big things that makes a region known or unknown in today's society is really the marketing. There are some wine regions out there that do a spectacular job of really almost in your face, wherever you're on social media, you're seeing something about that region, their hashtag or something. And I was listening to a podcast the other night, and it was a winemaker from Santa Barbara, and he actually complimented Paso Robles for, he's like, people are now starting to learn about Paso Robles because their marketing is good. But I'm trying, is there, what other regions, I'm kind of blanking, what other regions do you see a lot of in social media right now?
I feel like a lot of this. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like several of the Spanish regions have been, pretty savvy with it. Navarra, is one that comes to mind. I know I've seen them promoting, and a couple others as well. But I know they've been active on social media, as well as reaching out to bloggers and wine writers. I think.
Right. I think Germany with their Rieslings, first they're everything but Riesling, and then their Riesling, it was like back to back for, I got a whole bunch of wines that weren't Riesling, and then I got a bunch of Riesling. But yeah, I think the German wines, Argentina has done quite a few in the past couple of months. Lodi,
I remember for a while was hot.
Right.
Not so much anymore, but I would imagine they hit their goals. And yeah, Lodi was hot.
Alsace was doing a nice job.
Alsace, yeah.
Yeah,
they're consistently doing a nice job. I think that's Constance, right? Constance Chamberlain, who represents them. But yeah, really good.
Chewin Communication.
Chewin. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Lodi, I think they were spectacular with the Wine Bloggers Conference that went there. I think they prepped amazingly for the bloggers to be there. And I got the impression when I went to Lodi that they were there to show you we rock, Yeah. They really were.
I was just going to say, it seems like some of the up-and-coming wine regions kind of see, maybe reaching out to wine writers and bloggers as a way of, without putting, a ton of, just a big buy in food and wine or something like that. It's a way of kind of connecting with those of us that, have our niche audiences and really have an appreciation for what they're doing. So it seems like a good situation, and they treat you well when you go there, it seems like.
Right. I agree. All right. Well, we've talked about what the wineries or wine regions that are known do. So let's talk about some of our unknown wine regions. So who wants to step up to the plate first? Who wants to talk about their region first?
I'll go. So I first was going to talk about San Diego wine because we just did San Diego on Wine Studio, and I love San Diego, and I lived in San Diego for years. But I think 2019, I think, is going to be pretty big for San Diego. I've got a lot going on, so I didn't necessarily want to talk about it tonight. What I think is more important to talk about is sherry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I love sherry. Have you all had? I'm sure everyone has had sherry. Uh-oh, Nicole. No? Don't like it?
No, I love it.
Oh, do you? Do you? Okay.
Love it.
Yeah, so I think sherry just doesn't get its due, and I think it's very much in tune with champagne, if you think about it, non-vintage champagne. It's somewhat the same principle. But you've got champagne that has made these big strides. Everybody knows champagne, everybody wants champagne, and the prices have gone up. But sherry, I don't know, it's just kind of just staying
Copacetic.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. It's not really making any strides. I think the one thing that was really cool last year was the Enrama. So Enrama sherry is the raw sherry. It's kind of like the pet nat of sherry, but without bubbles. It's right out of the barrel. So that kind of hit pretty strong. But other than that, sherry just doesn't. Not that many people know about sherry, and if they do, they know sweet sherry,
right,
and not dry sherry, which most of sherry is. It's bone dry.
Yeah, I find that always kind of interesting. How many people still equate it with cream sherry for something that you cook with. But there's just this whole world of flavors within sherry it's actually really amazing prices. Like L'Aquitana is like $15, and it's like, I mean, the amount of history there and the quality that it's just like really the amount of time that goes into making this one bottle of wine that you're getting at a really reasonable price is quite amazing to me.
Yeah, and the dry sherries, the Fino and the Manzanilla, I mean, they go with a lot of foods that apparently don't go with anything. You know, artichoke, what else? Broccoli, whatever. Those particular wines go with everything. I don't know why sherry doesn't get the love, so I'm trying to bring back sherry.
I might, just to feed it, I personally love the darker sherries as well, like even in Amontillado, and it makes for some pairings that you would never assume would go well together. But like, I love Amontillado with like a really sharp Kraft cheddar cheese, or with a cheeseburger can be amazing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I'm a big fan of salmon, and Fino with smoked salmon is fabulous. Yeah. So exactly, and the price point that you mentioned too, it's ridiculous for a beautiful bottle of Fino. It's like $15, $20. And you can keep sherry a hell of a lot longer in the fridge. Have a glass, cap back on, pop in the fridge. A week later, so good. Anyway, good. So yeah, so sherry.
Well, I have to admit that I'm one of the ones. I am not. I mean, I know sherry, but I can't even tell you if I've tasted more than one or two of them. It's just, I just haven't gotten there. And I think the most I ever learned about sherry was in Bordeaux with the Millesime, because Ruben, who writes sherry notes, also won. So we were together for the week.
Nice.
I found it very interesting, but I still haven't really explored it. But I agree. I don't think it's a very well known, not only region, just the wine, that wine concept of wine concept of what to do with sherry.
Right.
I think that the negative side of sherry is that people think, well, what am I going to do with it? All right, I have a glass, then what do I do with the rest of it? But
anything. I think that's the beauty of it. You do anything with sherry. The possibilities are endless. And so, Wine Studio 2019 sherry.
All right, we'll keep an eye out for that.
It's been rough with sherry, but we'll hopefully 2019 this year. Yeah.
But I do, Jill, David, what do you think? Why do you think sherry has? I don't want to say bad rap, but an unknown rap, I should say.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm Lori. I'm with you a little bit. I haven't gotten into it myself either. We did a wine pairing weekend with sherry a while back. I don't know if you did that one, and I remember. I don't know if I just got. I think I was used to the idea of it should be sweet, and then I wound up the one I picked up. It was so dry, but it's definitely. I think some things, if you're not used to the taste, it's definitely unique. It probably takes a little. I think Tina's encouraged me to at least go back. Maybe I'll have to sign up if there's a wine studio I should sign up for and give it a go. I always like to expand my horizons, but for now, I'm probably. I don't know, Laura, you or I might be contesting for who's had less sherry.
In some ways it reminds me of the same reaction that some great maybe ice wines or dessert wines get when people are just blowing them up like, oh, I don't do sweet wines or something. Or the same, like you said, what am I going to do after I have that one drink? And then it makes that same point. It lasts forever. It's so complex. And the value, when you realize the kind of work that goes into some of these wines, it's like that's a note I just made, like well-made wine products you aren't drinking. Like these are things that people should be rushing out to get and just haven't quite realized.
Yeah. Jill, you kind of read my mind because I was all my thoughts immediately also went to dessert wine and how so many people just equate sweet with bad, and that's not really the case. Like you can have just like anything else, you can have a high quality dessert wine and you can have a crappy dessert wine. But the fact of it being sweet shouldn't be putting you off. Like, oh my God, just to throw in a word for my favorite of the dessert, it's one of my favorites. And I think you can find some really good values in that category as well.
I think I have that same tendency towards sauternes. And I actually kind of have learned to like it, but it's like I pour a glass and then, okay, well, I'm not going to have a lot of that, and thank God for the Coravin. I think the Coravin has changed, that a lot because now, I'll buy a $3.75 because I know it's okay if I just have a glass and then it sits there for a while.
And to Tina's earlier point, I think with a lot of dessert wines, they do actually keep better, even if you don't have a Coravin and open it up. They'll keep pretty well in the fridge for a lot longer than most other bottles.
What do you have an idea of how long, if somebody just opened up a sherry and just kind of had a glass and recork it?
Almost a month.
By just recorking? Yeah.
Especially the sweeter ones, about a month. Yeah, if not longer, sure.
Oh. Okay.
I've done it.
I have a Banyuls in the fridge right now that I opened a few days ago, and I'm not worried about it.
No.
That's nice. Isn't that refreshing? It's just going to be in there whenever I'm ready again. I'm going to hit it. It's all going to be good.
Well, that is a good feeling versus, oh, I've got to finish this wine. Not that, I don't think any of us really ever have to twist our arms to finish a wine, but all right. Nicole, how about you? What region did you think about?
Well, so I have so many. I'm kind of the type of person that, like, if you put something weird in front of me, I probably want to try it. But just immediately before this, I was meeting with a friend who's starting an import company for Portuguese wines, and that is one of my favorites. And I still think they don't get as much play as they should, particularly for the value that they present. I think the quality to price ratio is fantastic, and I don't know. And actually, I think if you're a New World wine drinker that is thinking of trying to expand your horizons a little bit more and explore more old world areas, I really think Portugal and also maybe Spain are really great places to start because they have a ripeness level that is similar, I think, to California wines.
Okay. See, now I like Portugal. I do like Portugal. I have found, that's a region where I would go, and I'm more than happy to just grab something that I've never heard of before and have some confidence that it's going to be a good wine.
And a great value too. I love Portuguese wine. I make Portuguese kale soup a lot in the winter, and you can go with any number of red blends from Portugal. Such a great pairing, and the whole thing, the whole thing probably is a $15 proposition. The wine and the food, it's beautiful. It's excellent.
And it will age nicely too.
Yeah. I will say that kale soup of yours, David. I flagged it. I need to try it.
When we did Portugal last year, David, was that early 2018 or was that 2017 that we did Portugal for wine pairing weekend?
2017.
Yeah, I had purchased a bottle, and it was really cheap, and I just grabbed it and I put it in the car, and I got home and it had rolled. I didn't realize it had rolled against the car door, the passenger car door. And when I opened the door, it fell out and shattered all over the place. So I had to clean up the wine, and then I had to turn around and run back and get another bottle of it. And I think it still was cheaper than some of the other wines. Both of those bottles were still cheaper than some of the wines that I've bought for other events, So I agree. The QPR is out of this world, I think. But now that is a region you don't really see very much social media about them at all.
I'm seeing a lot more of Portugal. I think they're really starting now, and especially the food scene in Portugal is blowing up. So I'm hoping to see more of that collaboration with the food and wine scene. But also there's a conference that's been going on there for a few years, and I would imagine Jill probably knows about it. MUST, Fermenting Wine Ideas.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's I'm not sure exactly where in Portugal it is, but I would imagine that's going to be bringing more light to Portuguese wines. But yeah, great history there.
And I will say, my husband and I had the chance to travel there maybe 5-6 years ago, and it's just one of those places that, like, again, value for money. It's like we always say it was cheap and charming because everything was just lovely, and you eat so well and you drink so well, and you feel like you're getting your money's worth for sure.
Yeah,
nice.
I wouldn't mind going there.
Yeah.
I'll add that to my bucket list that just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. Is that MUST Fermenting Ideas? Is that always in Portugal, or is it a rotating one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's always been in Portugal.
Oh. All right. Any other comments about Portugal? Yeah.
It photographs well, doesn't it? Everybody's pictures look so gorgeous.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
I guess maybe the one more thing I would throw in is, like, going back to my earlier comment that, like, I think sometimes people are put off when they don't recognize the grapes on the label. Portugal has a lot of its own indigenous varieties, which they stick to, and I think they should. Even though you will see the occasional cab, etc. But don't let that scare you off, because I think, as we've all said, it's such good QPR.
Right.
I don't think I've ever had a bad Portuguese wine ever.
Mm-mm.
And with Portugal, should people be looking more for the grape type on the label or the location where it's from? What's the kind of way to find out what you're getting, or should we just take a risk and pick whatever one we want?
Great question, Jill.
I mean, they label by location, but I think it's a good way to. I think it's a good place to take risks, because everyone said, like, you can often pull a bottle off the shelf and it's going to be pretty good.
I think too. Yeah, I agree. But I think too is the next rule of thumb is to look for the importer, and the importer you trust.
Right. That's an excellent tip for any region.
Yeah, for sure.
That is truly an excellent tip. Find, instead of finding and that's a great way, I think, to explore a whole bunch of different regions is through the distributor. Find a distributor that has a palate similar to yours, that you appreciate what they're bringing in for a couple of bottles, and then just go out and randomly pick a bottle from that distributor and see what you get. Explore the world that way. All right, Jill, what you got?
Well, I was a little bit torn. Same thing as Nicole. There's so many places, and I can't ever decide what everyone else knows about, what's unknown. But I was going between two. I want to talk about Monterey, which I think is really great out in California. And I think it kind of gets overlooked for its wine, and I'm not quite sure why. I think people think of other things about Monterey. I don't think it's overlooked in general, but wine speaking, the Santa Lucia Highlands was really great. But then I really settled, so I put a plug in there for Monterey in case somebody wants to talk about it. But then I wanted to settle on the red wines of Provence. Everybody knows I love to talk about Provence, and I think most people associate it with rosé. And this actually ties in so well with what we were saying about marketing, because they really marketed the Provençal lifestyle through rosés. I mean, that was like everything you see from Vins de Provence was rosé. So red wines from Provence are really surprising, and I don't think many people get a chance to taste them. And so that's like something I'm encouraging people to try, because I think like this time of year, nobody's thinking Provence. They're like thinking, wait till summer, So I thought this is a good time to bring that up.
So I'll admit, I don't think I have ever had an actual red wine from Provence. So fill us in. Tell us what can we expect from the wines? What are they like? What grapes are they using?
Most of you probably have had the Southern Rhone wines and love those. That like kind of combination of typically a blend of several grapes. So it's similar to that, but they have these micro regions all along the coast. So you're getting like the mouth of the Rhone with some really great reds there. There's like some little pockets that grow more or produce more red wines than rosés. And my favorite is Le Beau de Provence, where they almost are all biodynamic. Pretty much definitely all organic, and then most are biodynamic, everything they make. And they make mostly red wines. And so they're kind of similar in flavor to what you'd expect from a Southern Rhone blend. But then you can kind of go into these little wine pockets that are not Côte de Provence, which is what everybody kind of knows for rosés, all along the coast. And there's different ones that have certain grapes that they use. So some of them are more common, and then they have some other things sprinkled in that, little odds and ends. So it's pretty cool, and it's just something to kind of search out that you maybe didn't try, just like you said, Lori, because you're just thinking it's rosé. And I think a part of it is that that's sort of the name that they've made for themselves, but the unknown side is the red side.
Right. So
do you know, Jill, how much of it gets to the States?
No, I don't. I'm sure I could find out how much of it gets here. Probably not very much. I know when they do their trade tastings, it's pretty much all rosé, and then if you can get a producer that brought something else, they'll have their reds and whites. They make great whites too, really. It's not just
Winnie Blanc,
Mm-hmm.
So
it's kind of a little challenge, I think, to people to try something new in an area that may seem somewhat familiar.
Right. Do you think that the fact that they so promoted their rosé, that's been detrimental to the region as a whole?
I hope not. I hope not. I mean, I think people have really associated rosé with Provence, and I don't know, and this is a good question for the group, is everybody kind of sick of that, rosé lifestyle kind of thing? Are you ready for something that's a little bit different when it comes to rosé? Or, I hope it's not detrimental, but I worry that I was looking through some of the statistics about how much, this pocket, this appellation makes this much red wine, and I'm thinking, I bet they're doing more rosé now, over the last couple of years. I bet there's more rosé than my stats from a couple of years. So I wonder, if they're putting out more rosé to deal with the demand.
Oh yeah, I would imagine that's the same with anything. you know, but definitely because rosé is so prolific, and everyone's going to be getting onto the bandwagon of it. But it's easy to make rosé, right? And it's nice to have rosé in your repertoire, and it's nice to have that welcome for a rosé, and then get folks in, and then have them try the rest. So I think in that regard, maybe it's good for the smaller areas. But I think too, my question was how much of it gets out of the States, and I would imagine not much because there's so little that's made. So when you go to Provence, you're going to be hitting those little towns. You're also going to be hitting those red wines and white wines as well too. So I don't think they're hurting for anything, you know.
One thing about the rosé trend too, though, it's so wrapped up in, oh, this is the wine to drink by the pool, or you know, when the weather's warm. But actually, it's funny. I have rosé in my glass tonight, and it's like, you know, it's, you know, a versatile wine. I think sometimes it gets pigeonholed with some of that marketing too, with, you know, food-friendly wine that can open any time of year, especially if it's not like one of those just super light style, but something with a little more body that can go with more foods.
I think what you were saying, David, and I agree. Now you kind of you took your glass and you put it up there quickly. You're right. That's a darker rosé. So
it is.
What is that?
So this is actually from Westport Rivers in Massachusetts.
Oh,
wow.
Dark rosé, and actually, so they do. New England's a little bit of a tough place, good place for football, not as much. Making wine a little tougher. But you know, and actually, when I was thinking of which region, I was a little torn as well to pick up on Jill's theme, and I was thinking, should I do my local New England, or I also got to Abruzzo in 2018, and both I think would be good contenders for this topic. But I do have to give a shout out for Tina for mentioning I've lived in New England most of my life, and I had no idea that they were making any great cheese in Vermont, but wine in Vermont until Tina's wine studio. I had no idea, but then I did get up with some intros from Tina and visited Shelburne Falls and learned there's actually another spot. Westport Rivers is on the coast in Massachusetts, so a little more temperate, you know, still cold relative to Paso or something like that, but they're able to do Riesling, Pinot Noir, but then you get further north in New England, and then you get into grapes that, you know, you wouldn't have heard of. Probably haven't heard of Marquette, Louis Swenson, all these real things that are hybrids that are developed for cold winemaking, which I learned from going up to Vermont. I never heard the difference before between cool wine regions and cold, you know, and things like, you know, I thought Riesling, fine, but they're like, no, most of the Riesling vines will get zapped in a cold winter up north, so you have to hardier vines.
So what is that rosé made of?
So it's Pinot Noir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if I don't, honestly, I just opened it quickly. I didn't do a lot of research on the backstory. This winery, Westport, is well known for sparkling wines. They make, actually, in fact, supposedly Julia Child's favorite sparkling American wine is made right here in Massachusetts, not from California or something like that.
Oh.
Where she was a Massachusetts resident for many years in Cambridge. So they're known for that, but they've definitely branched out. They do some Pinot Noir. They also have a good Pinot Meunier that they use for the champagne, but they do some still as well. So I guess, I don't know, I'm just assuming they'd probably do a little more skin contact with with this rosé before in the process, but it's pretty nice, and it definitely, I tend to, even in the summer, tend to like the darker rosés in general, and definitely in the winter, it makes me feel like something can still open in the winter to go with. We had this with kale soup tonight.
You are the king of kale. You really are, and
there is a lot of kale in our house. Yeah.
And I do have to tell you, you make it look so good. Like, no matter how you make it, it always looks so good. You know, it's like, to be really honest, like, kale is not exactly, you know, like, yeah, kale, you know, but
love kale. I would eat
Do
that.
you? Do you? You know, it's
I
like,
agree. I agree.
well, you know what? Kale is like the underdog of green. It's like the unknown green region.
I don't know. A few years ago, I was living in New York during that big blizzard, snowpocalypse or whatever.
Oh,
There were lines outside of Whole Foods, like block long in the freezing cold, so that New Yorkers could get their kale.
And if you pack, if you make it in the Portuguese kale soup, or I do this kale pesto lasagna,
that looks
big
amazing.
red one to go with that,
Sounds delicious.
That
That's always fun
lasagna.
too, if you're into the food, for another topic. But then, you get a dish you make a lot. You can experiment, like the kale soup I make a lot. So Portuguese red's my go-to. But then I can say, I think, Lori, I've had one of your Cap Francs with it at one point. I'm like, yeah, this is another option, For some reason, we've run out of Portuguese wine. Go for another good red wine that's in the cellar.
That's very different from the cheeseburger, the blue cheeseburger you had made.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, I love it. Cap Franc is definitely very versatile. So
yeah. Well, while we were talking, Michael Kelly joined us. So hi, Michael. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. You jump right on in. What region did you pick?
So I was torn with the various different regions, but since I'm actually doing a speech next month on Calaveras County, I said, well, why don't I talk about Calaveras County, which is the area that I live in right now. And there's 40, so it's up the mountain from Lodi, if you guys remember where Lodi is. It's up the mountainside, and the elevations in the county run 500 to 9,000 feet. So it's quite a vast area, but anything above 3,000, not too many wines grow up there. But it's about 47 varietals of wine are grown in this area, mainly Italian, Portuguese, and Spanish varietals. So it's that whole swath of the Mediterranean going across that are planted in those varietals. There's about 900 acres planted, and there's 34 wineries in the county. And some of the unique wines that they do an excellent job. They make up the 47. I'm not going to list all 47, but there's 5 or 6 that I thought that were really that they do a reasonably good job here. Carignan, Cinsault, Nebbiolo, Negromano, Roussanne, and Tempranillo. They do a fairly good job with those particular varietals in this area. And I thought that several of those recently got some gold medals from the San Francisco Chronicle. Some got double gold, some et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's an up-and-coming area. I don't think it's there yet by any stretch of the imagination. It is developing. It was, in my opinion, what Livermore was 27 years ago. And they're coming up in stature. They're coming up just like Amador, won so many awards this year at the San Francisco Chronicle. They are starting the same blossoming, I guess, and coming to fruition. Not to make a pun, but they're coming to fruition. So anyway, I just think that they seem to be an area that I'm spending more and more time, since it's 15, 20 minutes to some of the wineries nearby. And I think in 5 to 7 years, they'll be at a reasonable level and more recognized on a worldwide basis. Right now, I think they're just a little blip, pimple on the backside of a raccoon, as they say. So, but anyway, that's just kind of where I'm seeing it. I think it's an area it's coming up. It's kind of like where Amador was 15, 16 years ago. It's like Livermore 27, Amador 16 years ago, and I think these guys have at least 7 years in the county to get to that level.
And how I'm not gonna lie, I've never heard of it, so very up and coming.
In Calaveras, yeah.
Yeah. What like how old are the vines? The average vines there? Like how long have they been producing?
Most of them have been planted in the early 90s.
Oh, so, yeah.
Some, I think most of them, I would say early 90s. So if you look on a map north-south, you have on the top portion, you have Amador, you have El Dorado, Amador, Calaveras, and then, oh my gosh, can't think of the name of it, the next county down. And so these foothill counties, these foothill regions, each have their own AVA, and it's not Stanislaus, it'll come to me in a minute. Anyway, they're all in that elevation range where they typically will have, it's a rocky, grainy soil. There's no loam, there's no sand. It's a hardy, it makes for a very hardy wine. Last night we had a Nebbiolo, for example, and it tasted like something right out of Barbaresco, the village of Barbaresco. It was just brought me right back to Italy. The Nebbiolo, it's that rolling hills, as they call them, up here.
No. Panel, has anybody had a wine from there? No.
No, I don't think so. I've heard of it, but Michael, how's the alcohol? What's the average?
The average tends to be up here. Well, there's a few folks that want to do a Rhone varietal, and they try to keep it in that 13 to 13 and a half, and there's others that go all the way up to 15, 16.
So it's typical, yeah, that of the foothills.
Yeah. So the Barberas and the Zins, the heavy Zins, those are typically going much higher. The Nebbiolo last night, I think, was 14.6 or 14.8.
Oh. All right.
So I just happen, and I'm going to be a judge in the foothill competition again this year. I was last year, and I am this year in April again.
That's exciting. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's about 300 wines that get processed up here for the event.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I've never heard of it. That's a very wide range of grapes, though. Like I was kind of blown away by the Negro Amaro, but I don't know, that seemed out of that region. My brain of where that is kind of doesn't fit that. But have you had actual wine from there, from a Negro Amaro wine?
Yeah, when you were doing your wine alphabet, that's where I had the Negro Amaro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I would imagine it has a lot to do with the winemakers. Maybe they're of Italian descent, Portuguese descent. Any idea?
Well, this area was all part of the gold rush, and so at that time there was, and Lodi, there was a lot of immigrants, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish immigrants that were working in the gold, and then they migrated down to the valley to Lodi to do the farming, etc. So then there's definitely communities of those folks over the past.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, I go back to my very first statement. This is all Tina's fault. My unknown wine region is, I think, working very hard to become a known region. But from the first time I tasted it in a wine studio, I became a huge, huge fan of the wines and the regions. And that is Albarino from Rias Baixas. It is one of my favorite wine regions. I have written, I can't even count how many blog posts I've written about it now. But Rias Baixas, I just think, is an amazing area that's got, first of all, the fact that more than 50% of the winemakers are women. I'm all over that. That's like that.
Yeah, that statistic is so cool. I just recently heard that myself. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. I think that is incredible. The fact that all of the rivers, I think there's 4 of them, right, that come together. and they have these estuaries, and they talk about the fingers of God, these estuaries of the fingers of God. And to me, Albarino, Jancis Robinson calls it razor sharp, and I think that is that is a perfect description, and that is why I love it. I mean, I think that that acid and that freshness and that salinity that just engulfs you when you have it is amazing. So that is my wine region. I think it is an up and coming region. But whenever I go out, and we started off talking about restaurants, when I'm at a restaurant and I'm with friends, as I'm sure you guys all are the same, they hand you the wine list. Like, all right, here's your job. They're looking for, we'll start off with a white or whatever. My eye automatically goes there. And
that's so cool.
And when I talk about it to my friends or to whomever I'm with, nobody's ever heard of it. So I think wine writers and wine lovers have heard of it, but out in the real world, I don't think they have.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. So we're going to do a reprise of Ria Spicious Albarino, and we're going to do aged Albarino.
Oh.
Because they really want to showcase that Albarino can age. So yeah, cool. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yay! That's so exciting.
When is that going to be? You have a
probably towards the latter half of the year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And when you say aged Albarino, how many years?
At least 5 years, if not longer.
Okay. And what's the max on it? Just out of curiosity.
I'm sorry. What's the what on it?
What's the maximum?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm gonna learn just as much as you. I have no idea.
But
that's why I love it so much.
I do think that is something that they are working on, because I think that when I first learned about it, it was a drink now wine, right? I believe in the wine studio, they talked about that you really want to look for no more than a year ahead, or a year behind, I should say. And since then, and I'm drinking it so much more now, it is really like one of my favorite go-to whites. I am finding ones that you can hold on to, and they evolve a different, they evolve. It's a whole different complexity.
And I think this is the natural evolution in marketing too. What's next?
Right.
So I think that they're doing a really great job with promoting Albarino Ria Spicious. So what's next? So
right.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned acid, and obviously acid helps in the aging of wines. But there were quite a few, and I forget which river they were at, but there were quite a few that were more ripe and full bodied. So I like to see the ability of their aging. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that would be a very interesting tasting to do the four rivers. Do the four rivers from each river and see which one is better set up to age.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're going to do it that way, because that could possibly set them up for failure. I don't know, but,
yes.
Because I know that's how we kind of did it last time. We kind of drank from the rivers, but yeah, it should prove to be interesting.
Very cool.
If nothing else.
Very cool. Anybody else? Are you Albarino lovers, drinkers? Don't have it?
One of my favorites too.
Yeah, definitely a fan. I was gonna say I had a chance to do sample 4 or 5. I was surprised at how much variety there was. From the region too, because I think I gravitated toward. There are a couple that are on a lot of restaurant menus around here, so kind of got used to. And I said, "Oh, that's what Albarino is." And then and all of a sudden you got 5 samples from different producers. And you're like, whoa, there's quite a range here as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it to me, it's not only that acidity. It's got, well, Riaspicious to me has salinity. That's what, because you can have Albariños, New World makes Albariños and they're not bad. But to me, it's a rare pocket in here that gets that salinity, that gets that, that part of what Albariño is.
That's why I think you'll like sherry, especially Fino.
Yeah, all right.
I really do, yeah.
All right.
Or actually Manzanilla. Yeah, it's probably even better.
And, all right. I will head to the store, at $15, it's, you can't go wrong. Right?
Give or take.
That's the $15, $20. That's worth an experiment at the very least.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody have any last words about their region, or did a different region pop in your head that you wanted to talk about?
A lot of different regions popped in my head.
Yeah.
I kind of was thinking that if you're a person who's looking to explore new areas in 2019 and you feel uncomfortable, I think, or feel overwhelmed, I suppose is a better way to put it. I think 2 good ways to go about it. If there's a region you like, see what else they grow there. But if there's a grape you like, see where else that grape is grown. So, like, for example, at the end of last year, I went to Calor. It's a region I've been kind of following a little bit for a while, but they make, that's really where Malbec comes from, but everyone associates Malbec with Argentina. So, it's a whole different take, and you can sort of see, it's a good way to explore, I think. And I think this region in particular is doing a really lovely job. So
excellent. Yeah. Yeah, so I think those are great tips, along with Tina's tip of the find an importer that you like and explore through them. Those are great tips. All right, so are we ready for our riddle?
Yeah.
All right. I know you love these, Tina.
Reminds me how stupid I am.
No. All right, here we go. Michael, do you have your paper? Michael takes notes.
I'm always ready.
All right. Never resting, never still, silently moving, hill to hill. I do not walk, run, or trot, but all is cool where I am not. One more time.
Yeah.
Okay. Never resting, never still, silently moving, hill to hill. I do not walk, run, or trot, but all is cool where I am not.
The first thing that came to my mind was a rock, but that's not it.
I was thinking wind, but I don't think that's it.
No, but it is nature.
Riverbank?
No.
I
Jill?
was actually thinking rivers too, or maybe the sun.
Ding, 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 ding.
Woo! Yay!
The sun, right? It never rests. It's never still, right? It moves over hills to hill. It obviously doesn't run, walk, or trot. But when the sun's not, it's cool. There you go. Good job.
There you go.
Yay!
Nice going.
Very good. Very good. All right. So this is our wrap-up time. So I am going to go in the opposite direction this time. You get a little time to just tell everybody about where they can find you, anything exciting that has happened or is going to happen in the near future or past, and where they can find you on social media. Tina.
So I produce and write Wine Studio. That's #Wine Studio. Find me on Twitter. January I took some time off because I needed it. But February, hello, we're going to be talking to the Michigan Wine Collaborative, so all Michigan wine.
And Nicole?
Okay, so you can find me at Psalms Table or The Psalms Table on Instagram and Nibbling Gypsy. I also contribute to the Wine Spectator 8 and 20 column. But then the thing I didn't mention before that I should bring up now is that I also am one of the organizers of Bachanage, which is a women in wine conference, and we're just starting to gear up for year 2. So you can follow us at Bachanage Forum on Instagram as well.
Fantastic. Michael?
Let's see. So what's going on? I've taken about 30 days off, even though I'm publishing almost daily this week, or last week, but heading to both Sonoma, Napa, Livermore. I was in Livermore last week, and we'll be heading to kicking off this Calaveras County President's Weekend with a kind of a speech lecture, and then heading to and then the Sierra Foothill Wine Competition will happen in April, and that's about all that I have. And you can find me at California Wines and Wineries.
Okay. And Jill?
So you can find me online just at my name, at Jill Barth, on Twitter and Instagram. And speaking of things, we want to put a plug for a few of you participate in the Winophiles. It's our French group that every month we speak about it or chat about, write about, photograph, all sorts of things. A certain French wine region, and Cahors made me think of that because Nicole's got that coming up later this year as our host. And so I'm working on a big project with wine producers and French foods throughout the year. So hopefully more on that to come. So look for us for Winophiles itself is just the hashtag Winophiles. It's a funny word, but you'll find us out there, or find me just by my name anywhere, and we'll connect you if you're interested.
Fantastic. David?
Yeah, sure. So my blog is Cooking Chat. The URL is cookingchatfood.com. And also, there are all these nice little groups that get going and do interesting topics. So Wine Pairing Weekend, do the second Saturday of the month. Different food and wine theme. Next month is Uruguay, so we look forward to that. Jill, you're hosting that, right?
Yep. Excited.
Look forward to that. So that's something coming up. The one thing I didn't mention, I was torn in regions Abruzzo. So my thing for 2019, if you get a chance, if you like Roseto, try Cersuolo if you haven't. It's a Rosé.
Yeah. Yummy. Yummy.
That I had never tried it before visiting the region. Granted, I'm a little biased because you drink it, by the sea and the mountain view, but that's a great wine to try in 2019 if you haven't had it before.
That looks like an awesome trip. You really look like you had a really good trip.
Recommend it.
Helpful.
Fantastic. And I'm Lori. My big news is on Friday, the San Francisco Chronicle released their results, and both our classic 2016 classic Cab Franc and our 2016 single vineyard Plummer Vineyard Reserve Cabernet Franc both got gold medals in the San Francisco Chronicle.
Congratulations.
Yep. Thank you. I was, I think it's kind of funny because, it's my husband and myself, so I'm sure, the bigger wineries aren't sitting there at, pressing refresh to find out what they get. But they announced that they were going to, put it on their website at 3 p.m. California time, so 6 p.m. Because I'm here on the wrong coast. So 6 o'clock, I'm sitting there, and those of you who know me, I also do wrestling. I do all the clock and everything for wrestling, and there was a match that was starting at 6 o'clock, and I was telling the official, no, you have to hold off, just give me 5 minutes, I was very excited to keep the gold train going from last year, and our reserve, which has only been released to our wine club members, is going to be released in about February 1st. It gets released, so we'll be sending out a newsletter about that. And our rosé will be being bottled in a couple of weeks, and that will be released in the spring. So that is us. That is us. So, and for the first time ever since 2013, we are pouring at the Garagiste Festival in Solvang this year.
Nice.
So if anybody is heading to the West Coast and is in Solvang, go on there and check us out. We'll be pouring there. So, yeah. Well, thank you everybody for joining, for taking an hour out of your time, or now an hour and 15 minutes out of your time, to join in the Wine Writers Wrap Up and to share your knowledge, expertise, and just your, fun. And our next Wine Writers Wrap Up is going to be February 25th. And this one, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to go about it, but I was thinking that we were going to do winemaking strategies. Is it good or is it cheating? So I was thinking of things like chapitalization, blending, saignée, all of that, fining, all of the things that winemakers do to produce a wine that, is a good wine. Do we think that, should we just let Mother Nature take over, or what are our thoughts of winemaker intervention? So that will be the topic. So I hope to see you there. So thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic month. Happy New Year. And here's to some more great wine.
And congratulations again.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Thank you. All right.
Good thing, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye-bye. Slainte.
Bye.
Bye. Did you know that Dracaena Wines now has a wine club? We named it the Chalk Club. Draco is on our label, but Vegas was getting a little jealous, so we decided he deserved to be our club spokesdog. In Las Vegas, betting chalk means that you are betting on all of the favorites. We are betting that we are one of your favorite wineries, so we thought the name was apropos. The club is simple, yet a bit different than most. When you wager on us, we will ship you 3 bottles of wine twice a year, once in April and once in September. You can choose all red or mix of red and rosé. You immediately receive 15% off of all your wine purchases throughout the year, but what makes our club stand out is the progressive discount. Let your club membership ride into the next year. Your discount increases. Each year you parlay your membership, you receive an additional 5% off up to a planned maximum of 25%. Your club shipments are discounted to a flat $15, plus we'll cover your club shipping cost for your second shipment. That's $15 house money in a sure bet for you. So please head to our website, dracaenawines.com, and find out all of the benefits of joining the Chalk Club and how to sign up. We've stacked the odds so that you can get our award-winning wines without breaking the bank. Thanks for listening to Dracaena Wines podcast. If you have suggestions on what topics you would like us to discuss, please reach out to us on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, Google, and Periscope as @Dracaena Wines. I am also on LinkedIn as Lori Hoyt Budd, or email us at dracaenawines.com. If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast catcher to help others find us more easily. We are found on all of your favorite aggregators. To subscribe easily to iTunes, go to bit.ly/Dracaena podcast. That's bit.ly/Dracaena podcast. And that's a capital D for Dracaena and capital P for podcast. Please check out our award-winning wines and find out about our wine club at dracaenawines.com. And remember to always pursue your passion. Slainte.